put these things in an order.
Bibliosophie.
Hi, hello, I'm Sophie, welcome. These are all the books that I read in October. We haven't done Baby in a Corner video in a while, so keeping it fresh. Also, I put on lipstick for you, so don't say your kooky aunt never does anything for you. I was in the midst of practicing a Rossini opera, and it has too many notes and I need a break, so I'm going to film this wrap-up instead for a few minutes. I think it's going to be a pretty short one. I read 13 books in October, sort of. I finished 13 books in October, but a lot of them are very, very short. The first two books I'm going to mention I talked about in my Tiny Books Challenge video. They are Love Me Tender, or Love Me Tender, with a French accent, by Constance Debré. I listened to it as an audiobook in French. This is her second book about it's a memoir of coming out, and her relationship to her ex-husband, her very contentious relationship to her ex-husband, who attempts to deny her custody of their child. And so being all of a sudden really just completely alone in the world, trying to recreate a new life for herself, and the process of that. It's quite short. It is translated into English. I don't know by whom, but I assume it is also good in English. I don't think there is an audiobook of the English version, but I highly recommend it. It was lovely, and I look forward to reading more of Debré's books. I own one of them. Cold Enough for Snow by Jessica Au, I also talked about. Another really short one. This is about a mother-daughter relationship. They go on a trip to Japan together, and it is about kind of shared history but divergent history as well, about immigrant stories, being Asian in a white country, about childhood, about memory, about changes in class, growing up, growing apart from the person who made you. It was really, really lovely, very pensive, and really good for this time of year. Very, autumnal wash of thoughts and words. So I also really enjoyed that one. 5 Tuesdays in Winter by Lily King is a collection of short stories. This is something that I actually really read almost none of in October. I just finished the last story in October. Almost all of it I read, again, I don't remember if it's August or September, but a while ago. I enjoyed them. I really liked Writers and Lovers, which I read earlier this year, so I was intrigued to check out her short story collection. I'm not really a short story person, so some of my lukewarmness is really just on me. It's hard for me to get into short stories. I really liked the first couple of short stories, actually, and then I kind of petered out, probably partially because of the, losing momentum, having so many new people to look into, I guess. But especially the first one I really remember enjoying. So if you liked Writers and Lovers, you will probably also like this collection. It deals with similar themes, and the voice is very much on par with Writers and Lovers. So I recommend it, even if it didn't, it didn't become my favorite book of the year or anything, but it was good. Then a couple of books which I did make a video about also, well, 3 books, about language, writing, reading, and translating. The first of which was Translating Myself and Others by Jhumpa Lahiri. And this is, as it says, a library book. It's always hard to get No Glare. This is a series of essays about writing and reading and translating. I really, really enjoyed this. This is the kind of book that I adore. And it's a lovely series of essays about other authors also that I'm interested in. Elena Ferrante, more on that. Starnone, Gramsci, and then her own process in both writing and translating. So that was a big hit for me. That came out earlier this year. Bodywork by Melissa Febos, which has been something that's made the rounds of late on YouTube, at least on the YouTube that I'm watching, and I really enjoyed it. This is also about writing. This is, what's the subtitle? The Radical Power of Personal Narrative. And that kind of describes it very well. It is also a series of essays, and it is about the kind of writing from an embodied place, who gets to tell what stories and what is worth writing about, definitely from a feminist bent, and who gets to write their stories and how. So it's very much a call for writing what you know in a way that feels authentic to you, and the therapeutic and transformative, power of doing so, of constructing a narrative on your terms. So this was another big hit for me as well, and actually I'll talk about the third of that trio of writing and reading books that I read. I talked about it also in the same video. How to Read Now by Elaine Castillo. Loved this. This is about how we consume literary media, but then just media at large and the world at large. How do we read the world, and the assumptions that we make in literature. Again, who gets to tell stories and not, what is missed and elided, presumed. There is a wrong way to read sometimes, and I don't know if you can hear my stomach growling. It's also lunchtime. There is a way of willfully misreading things, or reading things that uphold colonialism, patriarchy, racism, sexism, reading material that is focused on that, prescribing that as proper literature. So this is a call against that kind of reading, that oversimplification, that upholds values that do not serve that many people, but certainly serve some. Who are we serving? What are we serving when we're reading as well? So this has become one of my favorites of the year. All three of my reading and writing editions that I read in that video were just excellent. But again, it's the kind of thing that I just adore. Then, in regards to translating myself and others, that partially made me want to read in Italian, because I haven't been reading in Italian in a while. It is a language that I understand quite well, but I don't even read in French all that often. As you can see, I read a lot more in English, partially because I live in the United States, and so many of the book recommendations that I have are from English language sources. So I read even less in Italian, but it kind of made me want to get back into some Italian because it's been too long. So that was kind of simultaneous to my having picked up a couple of books for Tiny Book Challenge. I picked up Calvino's Mr. Palomar and Ferrante's Troubling Love? Yes, Troubling Love in English from the library, and then didn't actually really read them at all in their versions. I read Palomar in Italian, and had started, I had started one chapter of this in English, but mostly I read it in the Italian. This is sort of a book about nothing in many ways. It's my very first Italo Calvino. It's not super recommended by people. When I mentioned having never read his books, people were like, well, you know, this is fine, but it's if you don't get along with it, don't give up. And I second that. I liked it a lot. It follows really kind of the obsessional thoughts of the aforementioned Palomar, just overanalyzing the world, trying to think through the world. So I actually enjoyed it a lot. It is very short, but it's not, I don't know if it's life-changing. It is very much the process of thinking and reifying things around you. So it's my kind of book in that way. But I will check out more Calvino. I do plan to check out other things of his. It has neither invited me nor put me off, essentially, which is sort of what people said would happen. And then L'amore molesto, troubling love. I read the Italian version of which I gave back to the library, and also listened to the English language translation by Anne Goldstein a little bit as an audiobook. So this is, I don't think I ever cracked open this version of the print, but it was a multimedia experience, multilingual multimedia experience for consuming this book. It was fine. Not my favorite Ferrante. Deals with a lot of similar themes that Ferrante is dealing with, and especially in her shorter standalone novels, like Lost Daughter and Days of Abandonment. Much darker, or kind of more, because actually Neapolitan Trilogy is very dark, but because these are shorter, it's just a more, you know, concise version of dark, and this is very dark in its own ways. This is also very much a mother-daughter relationship. It's one of 3 books this month about this, more on that later, but a very troubling one. Our main character has just lost her mother, and she becomes really obsessed about finding out what happened, how her mother died. She doesn't buy into what did or did not happen. So this is partially sort of a pseudo mystery, but not really. She's delving into her memories of her mother, her past, and, you know, deals a lot with themes of female relationship, mother-daughter relationship, and kind of closeness, over closeness, the kind of claustrophobia of relationships, the roles of women, and how they are seen by men. So, you know, it's a Ferrante. It is not the most interesting one that I've read. It's kind of a lukewarm review of that. I read also as part of a Tiny Books challenge, I guess, but just finished them later, Oh to Be a Painter by Virginia Woolf. It's a series of essays about paintings, and the kind of connection between writing and painting. So it's from several decades, really short collection, well, it is a short collection, but it is also a collection of sometimes really short essays, which was very enjoyable. A friend of mine lent me her copy. I need to give it back to her. I did finish this month Upstream, which I talked about, another glary one by Mary Oliver, which I did talk about in my Tiny Books video, series of essays about nature and writing. Some really gorgeous parts to this. I liked the stuff that was about writing and writers, actually more writers than writing. I liked the stuff that was about writers more than I liked the stuff about nature, but that's also my personal preference. Lovely, very good also, northeast autumn sort of book to dive into. Even the cover is very autumnally colored. Then three more audiobooks. I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks because I am very, very busy. And so mostly I'm not really sitting down to read for things that aren't school related, but before bed, while I'm on walks, I have been listening to audiobooks, and all of them I really liked. Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield, which came out this year, is a book about loss and transformation. It's sort of a horror book in some small ways. There is a little bit of a horror kind of magical realism aspect to it, but it's really mostly a story of love and loss. It follows two different perspectives, both sides of a couple, one who is landbound and one who has done a deep sea dive. And so one woman in the couple has been waiting to get information back from her wife, who has gone off on a deep sea dive, and something went wrong. She spent too long under the water and she can't get any information. So it's about her fretting over that. It plays with timeline a lot. And then when she does get her wife back, her wife is really fundamentally changed. And so it's dealing with that process of first grief, or not quite grief, not sure if you have lost someone, the ambiguous loss and the impossibility of a cathartic mourning as a result of wondering if your loved one is going to come back, and then the still ambiguous loss of wondering if you have lost your loved one because they came back, but they came back wrong, and the process of that. And then from the deep sea diver wife, I have forgotten both characters' names, so that's why I'm sorry. It has to be land wife and sea wife for now. It's from her perspective every other chapter, and it's about what happened when she was in the submarine. So there's definitely a small, kind of horror element to it, and sort of a mystery, but I would read this more as just a queer love story and a story of loss and longing and connection, as opposed to, I think you'll probably be disappointed if you're looking for a whodunit horror mystery kind of. It has that undertone, but I feel like it's not really what the book is. On the theme of the ocean, or let's keep it oceanic here, I read just a few days ago on audiobook The Seas by Samantha Hunt. This is as a result of kind of the dual recommendation coming into my life from CJ Reads, who talked about this book in a recent vlog and said she really liked it, and then also Literary Iggy, who also really liked it. And I also really liked it. So here's a third person telling you that you should read it. It's quite short. It is set in a very, very northern, northeastern North American town, small town, very kind of economically depressed, very high rates of alcoholism, apparently the highest rates of alcoholism in the country, according to the narrator. It follows a young woman who thinks she's a mermaid. It is also about loss, because she has lost her father. She thinks that he went back to the sea. It's definitely a case of untrustworthy, unreliable. The word is unreliable. Unreliable narrator. It's hard to tell a lot. There are definitely some magical, fantastical elements, and it's hard to tell if they're actually happening or if it's in her head. So it's quite a ride. It's about also her coming into her own sexually. She is in love and lust with an older man who is about 10 or so years her senior, but he's not that old. He's just in his early 30s. However, she's, like, I think she's 19 or 20, so she's quite young. And he is also in no fit state to be in a relationship. He is an Iraq veteran, has PTSD, and so it's about kind of both of their traumas interacting in their own fantastical ways. It was quite a ride of a book, so I'm really glad that I went on it, because it goes into really weird crevices. Yeah, I won't spoil things, but there's definitely some plot elements between both Our Wives Under the Sea and the Seas. Yes, the Seas that kind of have commonalities. So, and then finally, I just finished Lucy by Jamaica Kincaid, also on audiobook, and I loved it. This is also a coming-of-age novel. I'm gonna talk about it more in an upcoming vlog if I end up actually making it a vlog. I have filmed myself talking about this book a little bit more, so stay tuned for a little bit more information. But Lucy is 19. She is from the West Indies. She moves to the United States to be an au pair for a rich white couple and their children. It is a coming-of-age novel. It is a becoming a more mature artist sort of novel. It is about it's very much a kind of comedy of manners in some ways, because she is witnessing this, upper class couple and their friends and how they do things. Lucy also has her own complicated relationships to her mother, her family, her homeland. So it is also it is my third mother-daughter novel that I mentioned. I loved it. It's my first Jamaica Kincaid, and I'm glad I finally read one. But that's the wrap up. Let me know if you've read these, what you read, what you hated, what you loved. Let's get contentious. Bye.